this is Cathynnan's Herbal ABC, and I'm Cathynan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do. Well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history, and it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Cathynan's Herbal ABC. After the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up. I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for a pregnant women to be using each herb. And apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. If that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. This will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. Basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many, 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 many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long, long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Cathynan's Herbal ABCs basically going to look like. Good morning. We're talking about T is for Toadflax today. It's a really grey day outside. Done my best to spark it up a little bit, put a bit of light around myself in here. Not particularly familiar with Toadflax. There are reasons why I chose it. Partly because I'm not very familiar. I could have done thyme, or which are all loads of tarragon stuff I've got in my garden. But I chose Toadflax partly because it's so pretty and I love to snapdragons. Partly because it intrigued me, really. So the first thing to be aware of. Oh, I'm going to tell you its names to start with. It's yellow toadflax we're talking about, and its Latin name is Linaria vulgaris, and some of the folk names, traditional names here in the UK are butter and eggs, bread and butter, and wild snapdragon. The first thing to be aware of is not to use it while you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and don't exceed the dose. Part of the warnings are because so little research has been done into Toadflax. Like a lot of herbs, it was really not encouraged for a long while. The money went to pharmaceutical research because that was the new big thing that everybody had faith in, and of course things are turning and changing as they always do. This is going to be quite a quick one. There are things to say, and it is quite a precious herb. So the first thing is how to prepare it. The whole aerial plant can be used, and you can use 1 teaspoon of the dried herb to 1 cup of boiling water and infuse it for 10 minutes, and take half to 1 cup 3 times a day. This can also be used topically on wounds, so you can use the tea, let it cool obviously, and then use it on wounds. So the actions of Toadflax: it's an astringent which causes a contraction of skin cells and other body tissues. It's also anti-scrofula, aka, so scrofula sounds awful and really old-fashioned, but it's mycobacterial cervical lymphadenitis. It's a disease affecting the lymph nodes of the neck associated with tuberculosis. So it's also hepatic, which supports the liver. It's detergent, so it has cleaning properties. It's diuretic, which encourages urine, and quite often a lot of toxins come out. There's times when you need to encourage yourself to wee more. Encourages toxins to come out through your wee. Toadflax is a blood tonic and a mild liver tonic for jaundice and chronic skin disorders. It can prevent dropsy, which is again an old-fashioned name really, but it's for edema. You know, that horrible swelling you can get in your legs, fluid retention. It may help against piles and constipation, both as a tea and topically. So you can use the tea to put directly onto your piles. It can improve the nutrition of children with calcium deficiency or any wasting disease. So, you know, if your kids are no appetite and losing weight and looking a bit pathetic and not how they should, no vitality, that sort of thing, it can increase their weight and their strength. So precious herb. And I can imagine, I haven't done this yet, because as I say, I'm not particularly familiar with it. I am going to start growing it, having read about it. It's another one that, you know, I'm really keen. And the last thing we had was the quince, that I'm really keen now that I've read about it, and the sea buckthorn. Both of those things I'm keen to have in my garden. Sea buckthorn particularly because I have the north wind coming straight off the sea up my garden, and I think the sea buckthorn would be able to withstand it. And so, you know, I'd be able to grow some slightly more vulnerable things behind a hedge of that sea buckthorn. It's quite odd for me because I'm in rented accommodation, which isn't secure at all. So you know, it's not like I can plan years ahead, but sometimes you just have to anyway. And all good, you know. I'm sure the next people who live here will appreciate a hedge that shelters their garden from the north wind coming off the sea, and protects their plants and creates a little ecoclimate that they could grow so much more in than how it is at the moment. But all these gardens up here, nobody seems to have massive hedges or anything. I don't know whether it's because of the nature of it, temporary housing perhaps. Toadflax has also been effective for some obscure blood disorders in children. So if your child has an obscure blood disorder, it might be worth checking Toadflax out. Okay, going to come back with the recognised Forage, Grow and the Permaculture. So Toadflax, to recognise, to forage and to grow. Toadflax is an erect perennial. It's so pretty, which spreads by runners. It's got stiff stems bearing narrow pale green leaves arranged in a spiral. It has pale yellow flowers like little snapdragons on dense spikes from late spring to mid-autumn. It is deciduous, upright, and is an H6 zone plant, which just means it's very hardy and can withstand quite severe frosts and colder temperatures. It should be planted in full sun, south or west facing, in loam, sand and well-drained soil. Toadflax can grow up to 4 inches to 48 inches, which is 4 foot, 10 to 120 centimetres. So great difference depending on conditions, I guess. So moderately fertile, light sandy soil is ideal for Toadflax. It can be propagated by seeds in pots in a cold frame in early spring, or by division or softwood cutting in spring. Be careful while harvesting, as they're very fragile, and the whole plant should be harvested just as it's coming into flower. Toadflax grows wild. We're coming into the permaculture now. Toadflax grows wild on waste ground and grassland, and along roadside verges and hedgerows. Between June and November, they can be harvested. Toadflax doesn't have a great deal of the qualities needed for a permaculture garden or farm. This, of course, does not mean it's not valuable. The bees certainly appreciate them, and the hermaphrodite, which just means male and female on one plant, is then pollinated by the bees. Toadflax and also attracts other wildlife, over 25 species, including 11 beetles, and notably including the rare Toadflax leaf beetle, the Toadflax seedhead weevil, and the leaf miner, the Toadflax pug, the marbled clover moth, and the Toadflax brocade moth. So plenty of wildlife will be attracted to your garden by growing Toadflax, and it is so pretty. And how much nicer, really. I mean, I'm sure the snapdragons have their place, but they're so much more cultivated, whereas the Toadflax goes back to the kind of wildness. Very lovely. I'm going to do the phytochemicals now. As I said, this is going to be quite short today. So the phytochemicals, sorry, I'm tripping over my words. The most important constituents of Toadflax are the two glycosides, linearin and peptolinearin, flavonoids, and pegonine, which is an alkaloid. Linearin is anti-dry eye, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-diabetes. So again, with the Toadflax, you'd be able to just dab it onto your eye by making the tea and cooling it. Helps prevent, where are we? Anti-diabetes, helps prevent osteoporosis and obesity, and also melanin deficiency induced skin disease. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Pectolinorin is anti-inflammatory and anti-free radicals, so it protects against pollution and UV radiation. That's interesting. It also allays the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines and is anti-aging. So again, it might be worth, if it's protective against UV radiation, it might be worth putting on your skin before you're out in the sun, I guess. And certainly washing your face with it to prevent, I'll have to try, to prevent the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines, anti-aging. Flavonoids can be found in all berries, red cabbage, onions, kale, fruit, veg, tea and chocolate, and of course Toadflax. The benefits from flavonoids include lower blood pressure, improved cardiovascular system, reduced risk of diabetes, cancer prevention, chronic pain management. They are anti-inflammatory, prevent viral infections, and protect against cognitive disease. Would like to say, I chose Toadflax. I mean, all of these herbs, apart from rhubarb, were taught to me on the course I took. And so I did have notes on Toadflax already. But it just goes to show that something that nobody makes a big noise about how good Toadflax is for you. But it's worth delving in and researching about anything that's in your garden, any weed, any weird little plant that you're not quite sure what it is worth finding out and researching, because all this stuff is up there for free, and the same with the foraging. How wonderful that there's something that nobody's put a blinking price on it. I noticed they've got now wildland mushrooms in my local supermarket. Well, it's a bit of a shame. So Cathynan is an alkaloid, which means it is part of a broad class of naturally occurring organic compounds. Not that I don't buy them, I buy them. But it is a shame. It's a shame that we're not out there in the woods and spending our days out in the woods foraging mushrooms rather than sitting in a call centre or a factory or a checkout or something. What a waste of our lives is the shame. I feel passionately. So yeah, broad class. So I'll start again. Cathynan is an alkaloid, which means it's part of a broad class of naturally occurring organic compounds that all contain at least one nitrogen atom. That's the definition of alkaloid. You can look this stuff up easily. The benefits of alkaloids generally, they are anti-inflammatory. They're neuroprotective, which means they protect your brain. They are anti-cancer, antimicrobial, antiviral, analgesic and anaesthetic. So they're both painkillers, those last two. They benefit cardiovascular, your circulation and your heart issues. They are antioxidant, which means that they stop free radicals proliferating too much. I've got them falling to bits. Stopping free radicals proliferating too much, which then goes on to cause cancer and nasty other stuff like that. They're anti-diabetic and they're anti-obesity. Paganine, aka vasicine, is an alkaloid and shares the above properties and is particularly effective in respiratory disorders such as asthma or coughing and in osteoporosis, especially when it occurs in the knee. And that's what's in your Toadflax, which is great. Amazing little plant. I'm going to come back with the plant. Again, not an awful lot on Toadflax. It's the element of fire and it's ruled by Mars. It's a member of the Snapdragon family and indeed looks very similar. It offers, so it is indeed a wild snapdragon. That wasn't just a name because of how it looks. And of course, thinking about it, of course it's part of the snapdragon. It looks like a snapdragon's little sister, you know. It offers protection against mischievous spirits and witches. It is said to be a favourite of the fairies and is associated with enchantment. It symbolises healing and vitality and has mystical and transformative properties. It can be carried in an amulet and serves as protection against negativity and malevolent magic. It can help create healthy boundaries and can be placed around the home for that purpose. Toadflax facilitates personal growth. It's been used in spells or rituals for self-improvement. It enhances intuition and psychic awareness and clarity. It can be burned as an incense. And Toadflax attracts love and romance and positive relationships. How lovely. What a lovely plant. I'm going to come back and do your tarot reading for Toadflax. I've just realised that how I've set the table up now has got a picture of my mum with my sister and myself on a boat. And I haven't got a lot of pictures of my mum. But I did, funnily enough, remember yesterday that no way was my mum a witch or anything of the sort. Never saw her doing anything remotely. She certainly wouldn't have picked up a tarot pack, anything like that. However, she did call her house Pentacle when we were living in Kent, and she did have a broomstick in the front porch, you know, like one of those old-fashioned traditional lovely witch's broom. So yeah, got the cards ready to talk about. So maybe that's partly where I get it from. I don't know. Don't know what my mum would think of all this. Yeah, so I've already shuffled and I had them down. Now just going to shuffle again, see what comes out for Toadflax, ruled by Mars. Something flew down there really quickly. I like it when it does that. Well, I say that. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So we've got the bird. I'll just show you it properly. Which is about freedom and opportunity. And we got Basil, which is about prosperity, luck, and love. Just move that so they can go a bit further back. And we'll see. I'm going to use I think I'm going to use my Wild Unknown tarot, which if you've been watching you'll have seen before. This one, Wild Unknown Tarot. It's very nice, by Kim Krantz. This is the guidebook, and Kim Krantz, you see. I'm feeling like I can take my time because the video is so short this week. I'll just give them a little shuffle. They've been shuffled. I'll just shuffle them again. Okay. And we'll see what the tarot has to say about Toadflax. Here we go. If anything, remember it's Mars ruled. It's quite because it's fiery, I guess, and because it's the flowers are on these erect stems. It's very phallic, they would say, I guess. It's not particularly, but that upright stem quite often will be a plant ruled by Mars. So we've got Judgment. I'll just read you what this book says about Judgment. I mean, it's pretty much the same as any tarot, but it does have a different slant, and I do really like the way this person, Kim Krantz, talks about the tarot. It's very nice. So we've got Judgment. It's about forgiveness. The word judgment conjures up fear and guilt in many people. This card, however, concerns itself with another aspect of this word, seeking the truth. No more blaming yourself or others, no more excuses. Now is the time for forgiveness and personal freedom. This card asks you to rise up and let pettiness and fear fall below you. Expand your wings and be reborn. What a relief it will be. Oh, that's lovely. And that sounds very nice to go with Toadflax, I think. I'm going to leave it there. So we had freedom and opportunity and prosperity, luck and love. And this idea of flying up and forgiving everybody and forgiving everything and soaring, really. And next week we will be talking about you for Usnia.